Disney just got the wake-up call of the century. After decades of crushing competition and buying up studios like Pixar, the House of Mouse just lost its animation crown to a Chinese film most of us have never heard of. And here's the kicker. This new champion made more money in one country than Star Wars did in all of North America. Let that sink in for a second. The Force Awakens, one of the biggest movies ever, made $936.7 million in North America. This new film, it just crushed that number in China alone. We're talking about a complete shakeup of everything we thought we knew about the animation industry. But to understand why this is such a massive deal, we need to talk about Disney's iron grip on animation. For years, they've been running the game like it's their own private playground. Just look at any list of the highest grossing animated films. Frozen, Lion King remake, Inside Out, Toy Story. It's basically Disney's greatest hits album. Even when you see Pixar in there, remember? That's still Disney. They bought them out years ago, just like they buy everything that threatens their dominance. Before this bombshell dropped, Disney had practically secured every spot in the top 10 highest grossing animated films ever. The Lion King remake pulled in $1 billion, and Frozen 2 earned $1,450 million. They weren't just winning the game, they were the only ones allowed to play. Just look at what happened with Inside Out 2. Disney believed they had another guaranteed hit. They were likely already planning where to display their newest trophy. But that record? It vanished in just 7 months. Barely enough time for the champagne to even get warm. And here's where it gets really interesting. Disney's current strategy? Toy Story 5, Zootopia 2, more Inside Out. They're stuck in this loop of endless sequels. Playing it safe, taking zero risks. Because why would they? They've owned animation for so long, they forgot what it's like to actually compete. That's exactly why what just happened is such a big deal. Because this new champion, Nezha2, didn't just beat Disney's, it completely rewrote the rules of the game. Now let's talk numbers, because these figures aren't just big, they're absolutely mind-blowing. Nezha2 didn't just edge past Inside Out 2's record. As of February 2025, it's sitting at $1,704 million worldwide, while Disney's best stands at $1,699 million. Not a huge gap, right? Well, here's where it gets crazy. Inside Out 2 needed the entire planet to hit that number. Multiple countries, massive marketing campaigns, Disney's whole global distribution machine. Nezha2, it made 99% of that money in just one country. No worldwide release, no global marketing blitz. Just one market absolutely demolishing every box office record in sight. The speed of this thing was insane. In its first 3 days, just 3 days, Nezha2 pulled in $151 million. That's more than what Wicked, Moana 2, or Dune Part 2 made in their entire opening weekends, but it didn't stop there. By day 8, 8 days, it had already doubled the total earnings of the first Ne Zha movie in its entire run. The original was already massive, pulling in $742,700,000 worldwide. But this sequel? It looked at that number and basically said, hold my tea. Remember when I mentioned Star Wars earlier? The Force Awakens held the record for highest grossing movie in a single region at $936 million. Ne Zha 2 didn't just break that record, it obliterated it. We're talking about a movie that made more money in one country than what was previously thought possible. And this exposes something fascinating about Disney's whole business model. They've always relied on their global reach. Their movies need to work everywhere. America, Europe, Asia, you name it. They need all those markets just to hit these numbers. Nezha 2 proved you don't need any of that. It proved that with the right movie, one market is enough to beat the House of Mouse at their own game. But this isn't just about numbers. The reason this movie dominated so hard, that's where things get really interesting. So what makes Ne Zha 2 so special? Why did audiences pack theaters to see this film? Well, I just watched it, and let me tell you, this isn't your typical animated sequel. First off, the visuals are absolutely bonkers. There's this one underwater battle where a character travels through electric currents that's unlike anything I've seen in Western animation. We're talking about stunning sequences where mountains crumble, lava flows from the sky, and the animation slows down just enough to let you appreciate every single punch and kick. When people compare a movie to Avengers Endgame, it's usually just hype. But with Ne Zha 2, we're actually talking about that level of epic. The final battle sequence? That's the kind of stuff that makes audiences lose their minds, and it's all built on something Western audiences might not know about. A 400-year-old Chinese novel called The Investiture of the Gods. It's not just mindless action. The movie dives deep into some heavy stuff. You've got this whole plot about two souls trying to get back into their bodies, family drama that actually makes you care about both sides of the conflict, and some surprisingly dark moments. There's literally a scene with charred remains that had me shook. And get this, they had the guts to make this thing 2.5 hours long. In animation, that's practically unheard of, but they packed every minute with something meaningful. While Disney's playing it safe with familiar formulas, Ne Zha 2 just went all in. Even the villain's family members are so well written that you actually care about them. When's the last time an animated film made you emotionally invested in the bad guy's relatives? The lines between good and evil aren't just blurred, they're basically gone. And this is where things get really interesting for the future of animation. What Ne Zha 2 just did isn't just about beating Disney's numbers, it's about to completely change the game. For decades, if you wanted to make it big in animation, you had to play by Disney's rules. Their style, their storytelling, their way of doing things. But Ne Zha 2 just proved that's not true anymore. It showed that audiences are hungry for something different, something that doesn't fit the usual Western animation template. Right now, Disney's betting big on their usual lineup. Stitch, more Toy Story, another Zootopia, probably another Frozen somewhere down the line. But while they're playing it safe, the animation world is exploding with possibilities. We're seeing incredible stuff coming from Latvia's Flow, Japan, Korea, and now China's basically saying, hold my drink, and changing the whole landscape. Think about what this means for other studios worldwide. Ne Zha 2 just proved you don't need Disney's global distribution network. You don't need their marketing machine. You don't even need to appeal to Western audiences. Make something authentic enough, something that truly connects with your audience, and you can beat the biggest names in the business. The next few years are going to be wild. Disney's probably having some very interesting meetings right now. Do they stick to their formula? Do they try to adapt? Because let's be real, they can't ignore what just happened. When a movie makes more money in one country than Star Wars made in North America, that's an alarm bell going off in every executive office in Hollywood. The animation crown has officially left the House of Mouse. And honestly, that's exciting because competition breeds creativity. When Disney can't just coast on their usual formulas when they actually have to compete with new voices and new visions, that's when we all win. That's when animation gets to grow into something bigger and better than what we've seen before. Is Disney's animation empire finally crumbling? Have they relied too much on sequels and playing it safe? Drop your thoughts below.